mean, it's just crazy. We've talked about, alternative theories to how the pyramids were built.
Yeah. I'm willing to accept that the Great Pyramid was largely completed by the ancient Egyptians. But remember that the ancient Egyptians tell us in many of their texts that everything they knew was a legacy. It was all an inheritance of the gods, and I don't construe the gods as aliens.
While the whole world thought that desert pyramids were only made by ancient Egyptians, scientists have just discovered a hidden civilization in the desert that no one knew about. Buried under the sands of Sudan and southern Egypt is the legacy of the Nubians. Many explorers believe this newfound ancient civilization were the big brothers of the most powerful Egyptian monarchs. What secrets do these Nubian pyramids hold, and how might they change our understanding of history? Let us explore how these pyramids could have been the true weapons of mass destruction in the hands of the Nubians. A forgotten civilization's rebirth. Nubia, nestled along the Nile in present-day Sudan and southern Egypt, holds a tale as old and fascinating as any. With a rich social structure and notable architectural skills, Nubia was a significant player in the region's history, engaging actively with ancient Egypt. The exploration of Nubia's past, especially its archaeological significance, tells us as much about human history as any well-documented civilization, particularly during the interactions with Egypt when European colonial expansion was at its peak in the 19th century. During this period, as European powers extended their influence over Africa, academics and archaeologists were often part of the colonial expeditions. Initially captivated by Egypt's more famous monuments, these explorers' interests eventually led them deeper into Africa. Sudan, with its less celebrated but equally significant historical sites, offered new fields of discovery. Among the first to extensively study Nubian antiquities was Richard Lepsius, a German Egyptologist whose work during the Prussian expedition from 1842 to 1845 was pivotal. It's somewhat ironic that while we focus so much on Egypt, a fascination fueled by its more accessible and visually striking monuments, we often neglect the interconnected histories of neighboring regions like Nubia. The history taught to us sometimes overlooks the rich tapestry of relationships and influences among ancient civilizations. One has to wonder what other overlooked stories are buried, waiting to be rediscovered and reevaluated under the more popular narratives we cling to. This oversight might be preventing us from fully appreciating the complexity and interconnectedness of human history. In the early days of exploring Nubia, researchers stumbled upon a wealth of archaeological treasures, including temples, tombs, and whole villages that were previously overlooked by historians. This quest for knowledge, though driven by a thirst for discovery, was not without its challenges. Those who ventured into Nubia battled not only severe weather conditions, but also political turmoil that frequently stirred the region. These explorers' first impressions of Nubia were heavily tainted by the biases of colonial thinking, a common attitude at the time, which often portrayed non-European cultures in a less favorable light. As a result, many underestimated Nubian sophistication, especially when compared to their northern neighbors, the Egyptians. This perspective was largely shaped by the dominant European view, which saw African civilizations as lesser. In truth, the interactions between Nubia and Egypt were complex and full of both rivalry and collaboration. There were times when Nubian rulers were not merely equals, but were dominant, controlling Egypt and influencing its culture. This significant aspect of history, however, often receives minimal attention, overshadowed by the more extensively documented history of the Egyptian pharaohs. The initial expeditions into Nubia, while pioneering, were tainted by an attitude that diminished Nubian accomplishments, portraying them as minor elements in the broader sweep of history. This portrayal often resulted in the true achievements and richness of the Nubian civilization being underappreciated, as the spotlight remained fixed on Egypt, which has captivated scholars and the public for centuries. Next, let's see how archaeologists discovered the of Nubia. Architects of ancient prosperity. Modern scholars need to re-examine these attitudes and give Nubian history the attention and respect it deserves. Acknowledging the full scope of Nubian history involves challenging long-standing biases and recognizing that Nubia's story is not just a sidebar to that of Egypt, but is valuable and rich on its own. Moreover, reevaluating Nubian history requires a new approach that doesn't just correct old inaccuracies, but also enriches our understanding of how interconnected the African continent's civilizations were. It's essential to understand that the narrative of ancient cultures like Nubia and Egypt isn't about one being superior to the other, but about how they influenced each other and coexisted with mutual respect in shared growth. This process of historical correction not only involves shedding light on neglected aspects of Nubian culture, but also integrating these insights into the mainstream narrative of ancient history. By doing so, historians can offer a more balanced view that respects and honors the true diversity and complexity of ancient African civilizations. This effort will not only enrich our understanding of history, but also ensure that the contributions of Nubian kings and their people are recognized as an integral part of our global heritage. Pharaoh Taharqa, a notable leader, undertook numerous ambitious building projects that spanned from the sandy stretches of Egypt to the rugged landscapes of Nubia. Pharaoh Taharqa's time on the throne was marked by a burst of construction activities, indicative of a time rich in prosperity and an artistic renaissance. He initiated many construction projects in important cities like Thebes and Karnak. Here, the artistic expressions of Egypt and Nubia came together. This merging of styles from two distinct cultures was not just a showcase of Nubian impact on Egyptian territory. It also served a strategic political purpose. By weaving Nubian artistic elements into the fabric of Egyptian cities, Taharqa sought to make the Nubian influence more palatable to the Egyptian populace. This integration helped to present their rule as a seamless extension of Egyptian tradition, rather than an external domination. Taharqa's reign is particularly remembered for how it symbolized a cultural and political bridge between Egypt and Nubia. His constructions were not merely buildings, they were symbols of unity and power. The blending of Nubian and Egyptian architectural and artistic styles created a visual and cultural amalgamation that celebrated the fusion of these two powerful civilizations. This strategy was likely aimed at legitimizing Nubian rule in the eyes of the Egyptians, making the transition smoother and more accepted. The legacy of Taharqa and the Nubian dynasty is evident in the monuments and temples that dot the landscape between Egypt and Nubia. These structures stand as lasting testaments to a period when two cultures not only coexisted, but thrived together. The architecture from this era often features a combination of traditional Egyptian motifs with distinctive Nubian elements, creating a unique aesthetic that is still admired today. Through his extensive building projects and the consequent cultural integration, Taharqa made a lasting impact on the historical and cultural landscape of ancient Egypt. His efforts to blend Nubian traditions with Egyptian customs fostered a period of cultural richness that highlighted the complexities and the collaborative potential of these two ancient civilizations. This era, therefore, is often looked back on with admiration for its artistic achievements and its strategic brilliance in statecraft and cultural amalgamation. The so-called rediscovery of the significance of the Nubian dynasty in history is another interesting chapter. Previously overlooked as mere invaders, the Nubians are now seen in a more favorable light as wise leaders who improved Egypt's infrastructure and enriched its cultural life. This change in perspective is quite dramatic and makes one wonder if history is being retold in a way that fits modern taste better, painting the Nubians in a more heroic light than perhaps they were seen in their own time. When we compare the Nubian civilization alongside Mesopotamia, things get even more intriguing. Both civilizations thrived alongside powerful rivers, Nubia by the Nile and Mesopotamia by the Tigris and Euphrates. These rivers were the lifeblood of their civilizations, supporting large populations and enabling the growth of complex societies. But are these similarities as straightforward and as enlightening as they seem? Or are they just convenient for drawing quick parallels in history books? Taking a step back, it's clear that as we dig into the history of the 25th dynasty, we're not just learning about what happened. We're also seeing how the telling of history changes over time. The Nubian dynasty, rich in political strategies and cultural exchanges, offers us a chance to see how history can be molded by those who tell it. It invites us to be skeptical and question the usual stories we hear, pushing us to consider multiple sides and not just accept what is commonly presented as the truth. In the vast landscape of ancient history, the relationship between Nubia and Mesopotamia wasn't just about them existing side by side. They were deeply interconnected. Their interactions were a mix of sharing cultures and clashing in wars, showing both sides of human engagement, collaboration, and conflict. Nubia is often celebrated for its impressive pyramids and large temples, while Mesopotamia is recognized for creating ziggurats and being one of the first to use brick extensively in construction. Now, we'll explore the detailed work of a key archaeologist in Nubia's history, the forgotten glory of Kushite urban planning. Both regions developed their own writing systems, cuneiform in Mesopotamia and the Meroitic scripts in Nubia. These systems were crucial not just for day-to-day management, but also for religious and cultural practices. Today, these ancient writings are precious to archaeologists and historians as they help reveal details about civilizations long gone. However, one has to question the longevity of such writing. Assuming that our current forms of writing will be understood by people thousands of years from now might be a bit too hopeful. This skepticism brings us to the work of George Reisner, whose archaeological efforts in the early 20th century brought new insights into the ancient kingdom of Kush. Backed by Harvard University, Reisner wasn't just digging up old artifacts. He was revolutionizing how archaeological digs were conducted and documented, setting standards that would guide future archaeological work. One of his major projects was at Kerma, a site he identified as a crucial cultural and political center in the Kingdom of Kush. This was a pivotal discovery because Kerma had been overshadowed by more famous Egyptian sites. Reisner's work helped bring attention to Kerma, showing that less-known places also have great historical importance. The complex interactions between Nubia and Mesopotamia show more than just their ability to build and write. They reveal a dynamic and strategic approach to living and interacting with neighboring cultures. These ancient societies were sophisticated, using architecture and writing in ways that went beyond simple utility. They were tools for cultural identity and diplomatic exchange, reflecting the complexities of human societies. While we often focus on their architectural and linguistic accomplishments, it's important to view these in a broader context. These were not just monuments and words. They were expressions of culture, power, and human connection. Recognizing this helps us appreciate the full spectrum of their civilizations, not just the parts that have survived through artifacts and ruins. In celebrating these ancient achievements, it's also crucial to acknowledge the transient nature of all human efforts. What we build and write may not last forever in the eyes of future civilizations. Just as the achievements of Nubia and Mesopotamia are studied today, our own creations may one day be relics of the past, studied by the archaeologists of the future. This perspective reminds us of the humility required when looking at our place in history. The sands of time indeed spare no one from oblivion. Archaeologists found something impressive in Kerma, the Defufa. This massive mud brick structure is one of the biggest and oldest of its kind anywhere in the world. Reisner, who led the research, thought that this giant building was used for religious gatherings and maybe even for running the city's government. However, even today, experts can't agree on what exactly its role was, sparking ongoing debates in the academic world. Digging deeper into Kerma's royal burial grounds, researchers uncovered a lot of details about how the elite of the Kushite society were buried. They found tombs filled with all sorts of items like pottery, gold, and bronze objects. These weren't just random items. They told stories of a highly developed culture with strong trade connections far and wide. More disturbing, though, were signs that human sacrifices were part of their burial rituals, showing just how intense their religious practices were. The city of Kerma was also revealed to be very well planned. It wasn't just a bunch of buildings thrown together. There were specific residential areas, places for making goods, and strong walls around the city. These findings help us see the Kushites as skilled urban planners and architects, which challenges the old idea that they were always living in the shadow of their Egyptian neighbors. Reisner's work at Kerma brought to light just how unique and influential the Nubian civilization was. However, it seems like the world of archaeology isn't too quick to let go of the old stories where Egypt is always the main focus. It's as if there's a reluctance to fully appreciate how advanced and important the Nubians were. This might point to a bigger issue where Western views have long influenced which histories are highlighted and which are overlooked. Reisner had a knack for controlling large areas, sometimes even parts of Egypt. He really knew how to leave his stamp on things. His methods for digging up old sites and his thorough way of keeping records set new standards in archaeology that everyone now has to follow. He was a front-runner in using layers of earth to figure out the dates of things he found, which helped clear up the timelines of the sites he worked on. This way of doing things made things a bit more organized in a field where understanding ancient timelines can often be messy. Let's look at how modern construction uncovers ancient treasures. Echoes of a Forgotten Empire. His detailed work has really set the standard for anyone who comes after him in the field of Nubian history. It's like he has laid down the first layer of bricks that all future research on Nubia will be built on. Many archaeologists now either add to his discoveries or, more often, find themselves working within the large shadow he casts as they try to unravel the intricate history of Nubia and its links to other ancient cultures. These links are crucial because as we dig deeper into the complex details of this ancient society, Reisner's contributions, as vital as they are, tend to steer us towards a view that simplifies and perhaps limits our understanding of Nubia's past and its significance in the broader tapestry of ancient civilizations. Furthermore, it's important to remember that archaeology, which is often viewed as a grand quest for uncovering lost civilizations, can be as much about stumbling upon ancient artifacts by chance as it is about methodical, planned excavations. In many respects, the field is propelled equally by these accidental discoveries and the structured endeavors of its trailblazers. Reisner's legacy continues to be a fundamental pillar for ongoing studies into Nubia, inspiring new waves of archaeologists to probe deeper into the complexities of Nubian history and how it intertwines with other ancient cultures. As we push forward in our journey to decode this ancient society, the significance of Reisner's work cannot be overstated. It offers a solid base from which we can better comprehend not only Nubia's history, but also the interconnected narratives of the ancient world. The uncovering of Nubian pyramids and the archaeological work to safeguard Nubian heritage, especially after the construction of the Aswan High Dam, have shed considerable light on this age-old civilization. The role of chance in archaeology highlights the unpredictable nature of the field, where significant historical insights often come from unexpected discoveries. It's common for archaeologists to encounter historical relics during routine construction work. Whether new roads or railways are being laid, it's not rare to unearth historical gems. Among these finds are the lesser-known yet captivating Nubian pyramids, which provide a stark contrast to their more famous Egyptian counterparts. These discoveries not only add pieces to the historical puzzle, but also enrich our understanding of the past, showcasing the depth and diversity of ancient civilizations like Nubia. This blend of planned research and fortunate finds characterizes the dynamic field of archaeology. It underscores the importance of both meticulous planning by scholars like Reisner and the random nature of discoveries that continue to challenge and expand our historical knowledge. As we delve into these ancient lands, uncovering layer after layer, we build a richer, more nuanced picture of how societies like Nubia shaped and were shaped by the world around them. This ongoing exploration keeps the story of ancient civilizations vibrant and evolving, constantly influenced by both the foundational work of pioneers and the serendipitous turns of fate that reveal hidden histories. The Nubian pyramids are much smaller than their Egyptian counterparts. For example, the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt has a massive base that measures over 230 meters wide. In contrast, Nubian pyramids have bases that are only between 6 to 30 meters wide. This size difference suggests that the people who built the Nubian pyramids either had different goals, less power, or fewer resources compared to those who built Egypt's giant pyramids. These pyramids are steep and narrow, designed differently from the large, flat stone blocks used in Egyptian pyramids. At the base of each Nubian pyramid, there is usually a small chapel facing east, which contains offerings and a stone slab with inscriptions about the person buried there. These features show that Nubians had their own unique way of honoring the dead, influenced by but distinct from Egyptian traditions. The way Nubians buried their dead tells us a lot about their society. The pyramids were not just graves. They were a statement of wealth and power, showcasing the high status of Kushite kings and elites. The Nubians demonstrated their societal structure and religious beliefs through these pyramids, clearly marking a social hierarchy, yet maintaining a distinct cultural identity from the Egyptians. Decorations and writings on the walls of Nubian pyramids also reflect a blend of admiration and independence from Egyptian culture. The presence of art in hieroglyphics indicates a sophisticated understanding of symbolism and communication, tailored to express Nubian identity. Ironically, these important symbols of a rich and powerful civilization are often found by accident, turned up by bulldozers and construction crews working on modern projects. This points to a larger, somewhat unfortunate trend. Our present-day activities often disrupt and reveal layers of human history. While these findings are incredibly valuable for learning about past civilizations, they also show how modern development can inadvertently erase the physical remnants of ancient societies. Next, we'll compare the pyramids of Nubia and the Mayans and their cultural meanings. Steep slopes and broad steps. These encounters with the past during construction highlight a cycle where progress and preservation are in constant tension. The discovery of historical sites during such work reminds us of our ongoing connection to history, even as we build towards the future. Yet it's a stark reminder of how the relics of ancient cultures are frequently unearthed and brought to light as a secondary effect of our push for new development. The pyramids of the Kushites, nestled in the dusty regions of Nubia, serve as stark reminders of a culture deeply rooted in both religious and royal traditions. These stone structures aren't just simple tombs. They're filled with inscriptions that have a clear Egyptian influence, adjusted slightly to fit the local gods and customs of the Kushites. This adaptation from Egyptian traditions illustrates a blend of reverence and practicality in their religious practices. In contrast, when you compare the Nubian pyramids with those built by the Mayans, it becomes apparent that their similarities are only superficial. Both civilizations built pyramids, but their reasons and the styles of these structures varied significantly, influenced by their unique cultural values and environmental factors. The pyramids in Nubia are sharp and narrow, designed primarily as final resting places for their kings and queens. They stand as solemn markers of royalty, constructed to ensure a prestigious afterlife. Mayan pyramids differ significantly from others. They are broader and not as steep. These structures were not designed as tombs, but rather served as vibrant hubs for the living. They were the center of various religious activities, hosting ceremonies and offerings that were crucial to the community's spiritual practices. The steps of these pyramids were not just architectural features, but pathways that welcomed the community to participate in regular spiritual and social events. These architectural differences between the pyramids built by the Mayans and those built by the Nubians reflect deep-seated cultural variances. The Nubians concentrated on life after death, constructing their pyramids as lasting havens for their deceased leaders. This was a way to maintain and honor the societal hierarchy even after death. On the contrary, the Mayans built their pyramids to cater to immediate spiritual and communal needs, using them as active religious platforms. This focus shows that for the Mayans, current community involvement was as crucial as any long-term legacies. When we look closely at these ancient buildings, we discover much about what was important to the people who built them and how they lived every day. Both the Nubian and Mayan civilizations built pyramids, but they did so for very different reasons. The Nubian pyramids stand as a testament to a society that aimed to maintain its legacy beyond earthly existence, highlighting a perpetual significance for its most prominent members. On the other hand, the pyramids built by the Mayans reflect a society that valued regular interactions with religious and community events. Studying these monuments helps us understand the beliefs and everyday practices of these ancient cultures. Although both civilizations constructed pyramids, they used these structures for unique purposes. The pyramids in Nubia were designed to ensure that their society's achievements and the status of their elite would be remembered forever, aiming at securing an everlasting distinction in the afterlife. Conversely, the Mayans built their pyramids as centers for continuous religious activities and community gatherings, showing their emphasis on spirituality and social participation in daily life. There are over 250 Nubian pyramids in Sudan, primarily serving as burial sites for royalty and nobility. Unlike the grand Egyptian pyramids, Nubian pyramids are smaller, steeper, and range in height from 20 to 98 feet. Constructed from materials like mud bricks, granite, and sandstone, they feature a sharp incline of about 70 degrees. The construction process of a Nubian pyramid was relatively quick, taking a little over a year, in stark contrast to the decades-long projects like the Great Pyramid of Giza. The most prominent Nubian pyramids can be found at El Kuru, Nuri, and Jebel Barkal. The region of Meri, which became the principal cemetery later during the Meroitic period, houses over 200 pyramids, illustrating the area's significance as a necropolis in ancient times. These differences in design and purpose between Nubian and Mayan pyramids underscore the unique cultural priorities and religious practices of these ancient peoples. Architecture can serve as a profound manifestation of a civilization's values and daily spiritual observances. The pyramids built by the Mayans in places like Mexico and Central America are quite unique when compared to others around the world. Notable examples include those in Chichen Itza and Teotihuacan, which were integral to the Mayans' daily religious and social life. In contrast to the tall and narrow pyramids built by the Nubians, Mayan pyramids feature broad bases and are not as sharply inclined. They often have stairways that lead to temples at their peaks. These temples were important sites for conducting religious rituals and ceremonies, underlining the Mayans' dedication to spiritual matters and community interaction. The way these pyramids were constructed also sets them apart. They were made from stone blocks and lime mortar and were typically expanded over time by adding new layers on top of old ones. This architectural diversity has deep cultural implications. The Nubians constructed their pyramids as everlasting resting places for their kings and queens, indicating a culture that placed a great emphasis on the afterlife and the continuation of one's status even after death. This focus is evident in the sturdy materials used and the designs that centered around tombs. On the other hand, Mayan pyramids functioned as active sites for ongoing rituals. They represent a society that valued current spiritual practices and community participation. The accessible temples on these pyramids facilitated frequent community gatherings and ceremonies, showcasing their importance in the everyday religious life of the Mayans. These different building styles teach us a lot about what was important to these ancient civilizations and how they lived every day. Nubian pyramids were made to keep the memory of their leaders alive forever, while Mayan pyramids show that they were really involved in religious and community activities all the time. Even though these buildings look a bit alike, they were used for different things and were built because of different cultural reasons, showing us how unique each ancient society was. This difference in building use shows how clever they were with architecture and gives us a peek into what they valued and believed in their communities. What do these architectural differences reveal about the true nature of these ancient civilizations? Leave your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more intriguing historical insights.